Hey everyone, and welcome back to Rebellious 1776. My name is Lynn Hurley. Now, normally we like to sit and watch political hearings, congressional hearings, and we will critique, criticize, and fact check them in real time. And today I wanted to go over something a little bit different with you because we have been watching hearing after hearing about the border and about illegal immigration. And I have had it up to here with the Democratic side's arguments that immigration is wonderful for this country, which I don't think anybody has a problem with legal immigration in any of these hearings. But what we are talking about is unfettered, unrestricted, illegal immigration. And many times they keep repeating, this is what this country is founded on. We are a country of immigrants. And yes, that is true. However, let's take a look at what the founding fathers actually thought about immigration and what their intentions for this country were, because that should be our starting point in understanding where we are going wrong right now, other than the fact that it's a very open border and people are just flowing through by the millions. A little self-explanatory there, but let's take a look at what the founding fathers actually thought about this. So in 1790, in a House debate on naturalization, James Madison opined, "It is no doubt very desirable that we should hold out as many inducements as possible for the worthy part of mankind to come and settle amongst us and throw their fortunes into a common lot with ours." But why is this desirable? Not merely to swell the catalog of people. No, sir. It is to increase the wealth and strength of the community. And those who acquire the rights of citizenship without adding to the strength or wealth of this community are not the people we are in want of. So James Madison was saying it's not about the numbers. It's about the people who can contribute to society. Those are the people we want in. That is a healthy type of immigration. That is from the mouth of James Madison himself. Now let's take a look at George Washington. And this was in a letter to John Adams, And it's very short, but it says a lot. By an intermixture with our people, they or their descendants, immigrants he's speaking of, get assimilated to our customs, measures, laws, and in a word, soon become one people. So George Washington was saying, again, that it's not about a massive amounts of immigrants that are coming to this country, but people who want to be a part of this country, who want to assimilate, who want to take on the ideas, the ideals, the philosophies, and the political views of America, to become American. That is what they wanted. And Jefferson in 1782 said, "Yet from such absolute monarchies," he was referring to, "we are to expect the greatest number of immigrants. They will bring with them the principles of the governments they leave, imbibed in their early youth, or if able to throw them off, it will be in exchange for an unbounded licentiousness, passing, as is usual, from one extreme to another." So he's saying if we get a ton of people coming in from monarchies, they're either going to have that mindset, or if they're able to throw off their mindset, that it is only human nature to kind of go to the other extreme. Neither of those are great, is what Thomas Jefferson is saying there. Then he goes on, "It would be a miracle were they to stop precisely at the point of temperate liberty," which is the founding principle of our nation. "Their principles, with their language, they will transmit to their children." So basically their beliefs, whether it is for monarchies or the complete opposite, which I don't know what that would be, anarchy perhaps, complete and utter freedom, unrestrained. Their principles with their language, they will transmit to their children in proportion to their numbers. They will share it with us in the legislation. They will infuse it into their spirit, warp and bias its direction, and render it a heterogeneous, incoherent, distracted mess. Mess is accurate as well. But basically he's saying, again, sort of what George Washington was saying, that it is not just the masses of people that we want to introduce into America, but those who share our ideals and our understanding of liberty. And if we just simply allow everyone and anyone to come into the country, then it will just be an incoherent mass. So again, Jefferson wasn't for unrestricted immigration. Alexander Hamilton says, And this was, I believe, a House debate as well. I could be wrong. Oh no, he is referencing Jefferson, excuse me. The opinion advanced by Jefferson is undoubtedly correct, that foreigners would generally be apt to bring with them attachments to the persons they have left behind, to the country of their nativity, and to its particular customs and manners. They will also entertain opinions on government congenial with those under which they have lived. So basically the same thing. They're going to have preferences or an understanding of governments from the place that they came. Or if they should be led hither from a preference to ours, how extremely unlikely is it that they will bring with them the temperate love of liberty? Again, how is it likely, they're questioning, is it likely that someone who comes from, say, a monarchy, who either holds the views of the monarchy or the complete opposite, is going to somehow land in the middle for temperate liberty? So essential to the real republicanism. Because remember, we are a constitutional republic, not a democracy, as you so often hear. There may, as to particular individuals and at particular times, be occasional exceptions to these remarks. Yet such is the general rule. The influx of foreigners must therefore tend to produce a heterogeneous compound, to complicate and confound public opinion, to introduce foreign propensities in the composition of society. The harmony of ingredients is all important, and whatever tends to discordant intermixture must have an injurious tendency. So again, he's not saying we should just let in everyone and anyone, but we should be picky about who we let into the country. That is not to say he was against immigration. He was just saying we need to vet the people that are coming into this country. That is not a new concept. It is an old concept, actually. Hamilton goes on to say, in 1802, the safety of a republic depends essentially on the energy of a common national sentiment, on a uniformity of principles and habits, on the exemption of citizens from foreign bias and prejudice, and on that love of country which will almost invariably be found to be closely connected with birth. So again, he wants to have people come into this country who are going to love this country. The United States have already felt the evils of incorporating a large number of foreigners into their national mass. By promoting in different classes different predilections in favor of a particular foreign nation and antipathies against others, it has served very much to divide the community and to distract our councils. It sounds very familiar from what we are dealing with now, doesn't it? By promoting different classes, different predilections in favor of a particular foreign nation and antipathies against others, it has served very much to divide the community and to distract our councils. It has been often likely to compromise the interests of our own country in favor of another. For example, the bill that the Senate is trying to pass includes funding to the Ukraine. And so many people have said, why are we more concerned about the boundaries of the Ukraine than our own country? It's an excellent question. Hamilton goes on to say, the permanent effect of such a policy will be that in times of great public danger, one could question that might be right now, there will always be numerous body of men of whom there may be just grounds of distrust. The suspicion alone will weaken the strength of the nation, but their force may be actually employed in assisting an invader. So again, if you're letting mass amounts of people immigrate into the country unvetted, unrestricted, are we then actually allowing them to assist a foreign invader? And Hamilton goes on to say, for the survival of the American Republic, Hamilton stated that the preservation of a national spirit and a national character is a must. You must have that national spirit and character. To admit foreigners indiscriminately to the rights of citizens, so to have people indiscriminately come in and give them the rights of citizens the moment they put foot in our country, would be nothing less to admit the Grecian horse into the citadel of our liberty and sovereignty. So are we right now letting the Trojan horse into our country? Many would argue yes, and I would agree, because we don't know. They're unvetted. We don't know. We are letting terrorists in. We are letting gang members in. We are letting murderers and rapists into our country, completely unrestricted at this point. Teddy Roosevelt, not a founding father, but a great American president, he echoed their sentiments. There is no room in this country for hyphenated Americanism, lest it become a tangle of squabbling nationalities. Kind of sounds like where we're at right now, doesn't it? Now, there are those that will make the argument that we need to increase legal citizenship. And in some ways, that is correct. However, we first need to restrict the unfettered flow that is happening. And I've heard in several hearings, they've brought in people from the Cato Institute. This is an article that I found on their website, cato.org. The founding fathers favored a liberal immigration system. Now, I've just read quite a few quotes to you that would say otherwise. But this is the argument that we hear quite often at congressional hearings when we have the minority, the Democratic witnesses coming in. And let's look at this a little bit, because really what they're doing is using only portions of quotes out of context to state that the founding fathers favored a liberal immigration system. So this says, at one point, Governor Morris offered an amendment that would require 14 years of citizenship rather than 4 before a person could serve as a senator, urging the danger of admitting strangers into our public councils. Charles Pinckney of South Carolina seconded the motion, recalling the jealousy of the Athenians on this subject, who made it death for any stranger to intrude his voice into their legislative proceedings. Yet, as Alex notes, the Romans rather than the Greeks informed the views of most founders on naturalization, and most of the representatives at the convention opposed Morris's amendment for fear of, as future Chief Justice of the Supreme Court Oliver Ellsworth put it, discouraging meritorious aliens from emigrating to this country. Alexander Hamilton argued that the advantage of encouraging foreigners was obvious, and admitted, asserting that persons in Europe of moderate fortunes will be fond of coming here when they will be on the level with first citizens. So they're making it sound like Alexander Hamilton was, he was encouraging, encouraging immigration, which, not to say that he wasn't, but it wasn't completely unmitigated immigration like they're trying to make it out to be. Let's see. I mean, we've read several different quotes from Alexander Hamilton. The United States have already felt the evils of incorporating a large number of foreigners into their national mass. The permanent effect of such a policy will be that in times of great public danger, there will always be a numerous body of men of whom there will be grounds of distrust. The suspicion alone may weaken the strength of the nation. Alexander Hamilton wasn't for unrestricted immigration as they're trying to make it out to be. Now, James Madison, they move on to James Madison, was not averse to some restrictions on the subject, but could never agree to the proposed amendment. Okay, maybe he didn't agree to the 14 years versus 4, because it will discourage the most desirable class of people from emigrating to the U.S. In other words, not only were the founders opposed to restricting the free movement of people into the United States, we know that's false, we've read many quotes at this point on it, but they opposed restrictions on citizenship that they felt would discourage immigrants from using that freedom. I disagree. I think that they wanted restrictions on citizenship. They didn't want just anybody and everybody to come into the country. The founding fathers wanted people who would contribute significantly to the country. It's not this unrestricted flow of citizenship like the Cato Institute is trying to make it out to be. Madison spoke of great numbers who would wish to come to the United States. Yes, he did. But he also said that doesn't mean we need to let everybody in. Benjamin Franklin noted that the Constitution will be much read and attended to in Europe, and if it should betray a great partiality to the rich, it will not only hurt us in the esteem of most liberal and enlightened men there, but discourage the common people from removing to this country. In fact, Benjamin Franklin said, "Why should the Palatine Boers be suffered to swarm into our settlements and be herding together, establish their language and manners to the exclusion of ours?" Just a side note, the founding fathers felt that all citizens needed to learn English and be assimilated into the country. Why should Pennsylvania, founded by the English, become a colony of aliens who will shortly be so numerous as to Germanize us instead of our Anglifying them, and will never adopt our language or customs any more than they can acquire our complexion? Benjamin Franklin. So whether or not you agree with Benjamin Franklin's sentiments there, you can see my point in that in this article, they are painting Benjamin Franklin in a completely different light. As they said, Benjamin Franklin noted, the Constitution will be much read and attended to in Europe, and if it should betray great partiality of the rich, it will not only hurt us in the esteem of the most liberal and enlightened men there, but discourage the common people from removing to this country. So Benjamin Franklin wasn't quite as open-minded about it as they're leading you to believe. On this amendment, he made the same point, stating he was not against a reasonable time, but should be very sorry to see anything like illiberality inserted into the Constitution. Madison agreed, further arguing that the amendment will give a tincture of illiberality to the Constitution. We've already talked about James Madison, and we know that he certainly wasn't for unrestricted immigration either. Edmund Randolph of Virginia reminded the convention of the language held by our patriots during the Revolution and the principles laid down in all of our American constitutions. Okay, that doesn't necessarily speak to open immigration. James Wilson of Pennsylvania, who first helped produce the first draft of the Constitution, was himself an immigrant from Scotland and raised the possibility of himself being incapacitated from holding a place under the very Constitution which he had shared in the trust of making. So again, they're talking about holding public office here. They're not talking about unrestricted immigration. And let's see, let's go down. Even those who favored a longer restriction on citizenship made it clear that it was by no means out of opposition to immigration. George Mason, who was governor of Virginia and was critical in really laying out the fundamentals in our Constitution, stated he was for opening a wide door of immigrants. So here they're using part of a quote, but let me show you the rest of it, or at least the ending of it. Opening a wide door for immigrants, that's what they wrote, but did not choose to let foreigners and adventurers make law for and govern us. So he's still putting restrictions on immigrants and immigration. This specifically is more for immigrants and whether or not he felt that they should be able to hold public office as quickly as maybe others wanted. And then Morris lost the vote, 7-4. So I wanted to show you this because this is very similar to a lot of the arguments that we hear in these hearings, these constitutional hearings, for basically unrestricted immigration. And that is not what our founding fathers wanted. So I hope that you consider that when you're watching these hearings in the future or listening to other arguments on immigration, and understand the founding principles of our country. And yes, we are a country founded on immigrants. Yes, immigrants are crucial to our economy and our system, and nobody is at this point that I've seen, at least not in Congress, arguing against immigration in general. We are only arguing against illegal immigration, this unrestricted flow of immigration. So I hope that helps give you a broader understanding of what our founding fathers thought about immigration. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.